today I'm very excited. I am joined by entrepreneur and franchisee, Mr. Sydney Mukwacha.
We're going to do this so many times.
Oh my God.
I want to take you guys on the road. I want to document.
I am all about documenting the process.
All of this is just a whole big play for legacy.
That's why.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's good to have me here. Looking forward to our discussion and our chat.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to have you on my podcast. You know, the people that I usually interview are for younger demographic, people who are figuring things out and like trying to get into new spaces. But it's always good to have a word from somebody who's seasoned, who's treaded it. So just to give everybody listening a little bit more context, can you give us just a little bit 2 to 3 minute background on who you are and how you got to the place where you are right now?
Thank you, sir. My name is Sydney Mukwacha, and I'm an entrepreneur. Obviously, I'm also an immigrant. Born in Zimbabwe. Born in Zimbabwe. Been based in South Africa for more than 10 years. And besides business, some of my areas of interest, public policy. Yeah, public policy. I think it comes to number one, public policy and politics, which is kind of like one and the same thing, because public policy affects politics, politics affects public policy. So it's entrepreneurship, public policy, and politics. And also, I'm in my mid-30s. So I'm not really young, and I'm not old.
I think you're super young. I think you're incredibly young. Can I be very honest with you? I think mid-30s is like the crescendo age where I feel like everybody's still figuring it out around that age, bring up the infrastructure and stuff like that. I think you're very young.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, I mean, let's dive straight into it. So just to pivot and get deep into the crux of what this interview is about, let's talk about business, the selling and buying of things. What type of a child were you growing up? Like what was your introduction into entrepreneurship? How did you realize, I think I want to have my own business. I want to run my own things. How was that experience for you?
Good question. When you're growing up, you have a lot of things that are going through your mind. You have your I want to be a doctor, I want to be a policeman, I want to be this and that, and so forth. That's when you're growing up. And then when you begin to be of age, in your teens, you kind of like start looking at your life holistically. So I think my first business opportunity was when I was in grade 5. Started buying. I think I asked my mom for some money because. But I don't know what they're called in South Africa. I think it's some juice. In Zimbabwe they're called freezes. So in South Africa I think it's those little juice that we have like in plastic sachets. Bought those, put a sign, freezes for sale. So that was my first encounter with business, because I had seen my mom doing business. My mom is an entrepreneur in her own right.
Okay.
That was my first encounter doing business, and then from there, obviously, it was just little buying and selling here and there. Even eventually, when I started working for a financial institution on a full-time basis, I also had a little side hustle on the side where I was doing t-shirts. I had a clothing line.
I remember,
which I'll come back to. I need to come back to that clothing line. I think the time is now. It was so that's when I started doing this entrepreneurial thing.
That's amazing. I think I'm starting to notice a trend. Like a lot of people start from early and they start from young. I mean, if I think of you, if I think of other entrepreneurs I look up to within this country, within the world, like Gary Vaynerchuk or the big ones that everybody knows, the Elons or the Jeff Bezoses, they started at a very young age doing something. That's very interesting. So then, okay. Grade 5, you're selling freezes by the side of the road.
Oh, yeah.
High school happens. All of these things happen. You meet the girl, whatever. You fall in love. All of that happens. You go to university and that, right? Did you go to university?
Yeah.
What did you study in university?
I did marketing. I did marketing. My program, my first program I did marketing. Went to college rather, you know, and when one is growing up and you take a lot and you appear to be a little bit wise, people just say, I know you need to go and study marketing, you know, because you know you take a lot, you talk a lot, and so forth. I've always had passion for law, you know, especially on the side of business law. So I'm also doing a program in law now with the University of South Africa.
So then that happened. You go from university straight into the workforce.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm very interested to know this. Like back in your time, not back in your time, like it was 50 years ago, when you left university and you went to straight into the workforce, could you say there were skills that you learned there that were directly transferable into your job, and more importantly, into the businesses that you're running right now?
So my journey was this. I got a job, then I started college. So I was studying whilst I was working.
Okay, where were you working whilst you were studying?
I was working at a financial institution in Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay,
as a bank.
I see.
Yeah, so you know, I started marketing, and obviously, I mean, in all those areas, one thing that you have to understand, appreciate, is that each and every stage of your life will bring to you lessons. It will upskill you. So at the bank, for example, learned, you know, how to be on time, how to be, you know, attention to detail, a little bit of finance, you know, marketing, you know, customer care, study of the economy, you know, a little bit of financial markets.
So all of this is happening whilst you were still in Zimbabwe. And then in what year did you move to South Africa?
2007, 25 May 2007.
Jeez.
Yes, sir.
I also remember the exact date that I moved here, December 18, 2016. No immigrant ever forgets that. Amazing. So like, would you say when you moved to South Africa, that's when your entrepreneurial spirit sort of like skyrocketed?
I believe in placement. I believe in being in the right right geographical setup, you know, for the things that you want to do. And obviously it wasn't an easy journey, even being in South Africa, you know. I just didn't come, then started, you know, came here, opened a business. No, I started from the bottom. And but yeah, you know, I think.
And for you, what was the bottom? How did the bottom look like?
The bottom for me was working at a call center somewhere in Pretoria and just getting your salary on a commission basis. And I remember I never got anything above 500 rand per month in that call center. Yeah, that was the bottom, you know. And then also kind of like worked in the restaurant chains, you know, as a waiter. So yeah, and yeah, those were really trying times.
A true story of hustle and grind. That's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that gap between restaurant waitering, working based on off commission, making about 500 a month. What was the time period before that up until you getting a job that you deemed as stable? And then like just take us into how then you got into starting your own business, and then we'll go into franchising later.
During that time, it was precisely, I think it was between, 6 and 7 years. 6
years. Now, what happened after 6 years? Are you in a more stable job now? What's the scenario? What's the situation?
February 2013, I then started a job with a non-profit making organization. And then that was it. You know, from there, then, you know, my life just took off.
Off to the races. Amazing. Before I get like deep into some of the business stuff, I think adversity is one of the biggest advantages that one person can have in life, because it teaches you so much, and you're going to act differently with the resources that you have right now compared to somebody who was simply born into something that was already privileged. So like how did obviously your standard of living changed? What for you, I want to know mentally, what was it? What was the shift from busboy, waiter boy, you know, side hustle, trying to make money back home in Zimbabwe, to okay, now I've got a stable, decent job, and like you said, my life took off. What changed?
Well, in terms of mentalities, nothing really changed, because if you know that, you know, where you are is not where you're supposed to be, So
Okay, I
each and
see.
every day you carry that mindset that, you know what, I'm here, but I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to be here. So in your mindset, you are this enterprising person. You are this multi-millionaire. You are
I feel
this
you.
person who has an office in a C-suite level, and you have these 100 and 200 employees. You've got this
Yeah.
line of managers, line of directors. This is in your mind, in your imagination, in your vision. Your reality now is speaking otherwise. So one thing that you mustn't stop doing is you mustn't stop dreaming. No matter where you are in life, you need to have that vision. You need to have that dream, and that dream must always be there 24/7. That dream must kick you. It must always be, it must always be haunting you. So you don't have to necessarily have a mindset of where you are. Then once you jump to another level, that's when you try to pick up a new mindset. No, that's not how it works. It works in reverse.
So you always believed.
I've always believed, you have
That was
this
interesting.
dream, you have this vision, where you say, I'm supposed to be like this, I am like this, and you carry that and you move with that until it is manifested, So in the natural, you are just a boy catching taxis. Sometimes you're working because you don't have money,
Yep.
and so forth. But in your mind, the mind is a very powerful tool. You need to have constantly having that vision to say, I am going to be like this. I am like this. I am like this. And you need to carry that mindset 24/7. Yes, discouragement will come. All
Of
these
course.
things will come, try to discourage you and so forth. And, because you are trying to reconcile where you are versus where you are supposed to be.
And obviously patience was a big part of that equation.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. You need to be patient. Lots and lots of patience. But each and every day you constantly have to be working on your dream. So each and every day you need to do, like, a checkbox. How have I improved my dream? If it means that you've researched something that you didn't know, you've read an article, you're doing this and that, updating your business plan or whatever you're doing, constantly doing that.
So for you, after all of this happened, what came first? Was it starting the business, or was franchising something more recent?
Well, like I said, as far back, I've always been trying to look for opportunities. So the
Of
business really
course.
started, but it wasn't formally. The first one is Good Night Betting.
Oh, okay, I
We
see.
yeah running a franchise/dealership for Good Night Betting, which is your factory direct. You get supplies from the
Yeah,
factory for beds, household furniture, beds, pillows,
I see.
beds, pillows, and so forth. And we run that under the trademark of Good Night Betting, obviously as a franchisee. And yeah, then from there moved into other things, and also moved into now the newborn baby, which was born during COVID. It's Craft Deco, which is
Yep.
a proper furniture manufacturing company.
Okay. So for anybody who's sort of confused or doesn't have clarity on that, can you just explain, your little rundown on what franchising is and how somebody can gain access to that?
Yeah, I mean, franchising is, I think the legal term would be, franchising is a method of distributing products or services involving a franchisor, who established the brand trademark, or the founder of the person who established the brand or trade name or a business system, and a franchisee, which is someone who is coming in to say, I also want to run this kind of business with your trademark.
Yep.
And then when you talk of a franchising system, you then pay a royalty, which obviously is done every month to use that company's name and so forth. So, for example, you say, I want to. You can't just you cannot just wake up and say, oh, Nando's is very good, so I'm gonna open my own shop and I'll call it Nando's and I'll be doing chickens. Because it's there already, and that business is legally protected. So what you have to do, if you love Nando's that much, go to Nando's. You say you want to be a franchisee, which means you also want to open your Nando's business. And you go through all the processes, the trainings, the financial commitments, and there's a lot that is involved, in terms of how the mechanics, of a franchise works. But yeah, that's in short. You go to McDonald's, you say, hey, I think this business makes a lot of money. I love it. I love the brand. Can I also get an opportunity to run my own store? You go to Nando's, there's a lot, King Pie, good night betting.
So right now you're franchising those business models is retail and quick service restaurants, right? It's good night bedding and King Pie. Am I correct?
Yes, kind of, yeah.
Okay, clarify.
Yes, so it's good night betting and King Pie, obviously, and if you feel that because I think there's different levels of entrepreneurship, and
for sure.
If you are running a franchise, yeah, you are, and for me, you are more of a business person. Then when you actually start something, the guy that started McDonald's is the entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure.
The guy that started Nando's is the entrepreneur. Guys that then come and run with as franchisees. For me, and this is up for debate, and people have got different interpretations.
People want to scale the cost of somebody else's brand.
Yes. So those are what I call business people.
So picking up from the energy, am I right in assuming that you prefer like entrepreneurship, pure born and bred, over franchising a business, or what would you say to that? In your experience, what is more enjoyable for you?
Oh, dude, being an entrepreneur is not enjoyable at all.
No, I mean, of course, I get that. Like, it's a lot of hardship, a lot of pushback and stuff like that. But I mean, you gotta love it to some extent to be doing what you're doing, right?
No, you have to, and you really have to. And if I sign up for Nando's as a franchisee, I'm coming in, I get trained 2 or 3 months. I get trained to get the training. It's very intense training. You get a site, you open your site, you open your restaurant. Guys from head office, they come, they monitor, they're training you on the ground, for those 2 months or so. Yeah, then that's it. Then obviously those guys from head office, they will be doing like your weekly, monthly visit to your store, and they will be monitoring how you are working and how you're running your store. You will then be adhering to their standards, their processes and procedures. So in a nutshell, in a franchise system, you have a system that is there, which you just need to adhere to.
I feel you.
You understand? But then if you are now an entrepreneur, it means you are the one that is creating that system for people. So it's all up to you. I believe, number one, I'm an entrepreneur, through thick and thin. I enjoy starting stuff. I enjoy putting processes, and I've got the heart for it. But at the same time, I also enjoy, the franchising, being a business person and managing a system. But I don't have quells with me starting something and running with it, and it really takes a lot. Also, I think the person as well, you gotta have to make a decision, and you choose. You can get your 9-to-5 job, and you can still be a franchisee. Running a franchise. It's still possible, but it's gonna be very difficult for you to.
I can imagine
to start and run a business as an entrepreneur whilst you have a 9-to-5.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that business is gonna require the whole of you.
Your entire self.
You tire yourself. So I gravitate more towards entrepreneurship, and you know that everything rises and falls on your brand. So yeah, yeah.
You, you're the last line of defense. That's cool. That's cool. So like I know you've been watching. I know you keep your ears to the ground a lot, and you're interested in all of these other subtopics around entrepreneurship. What currently in the digital space, in the business space, have you been seeing that has caught your attention? Something that you've maybe implemented in your own businesses, or something quite unconventional that you think you might want to bring some attention around to have a conversation about?
21st century, I think lockdown brought to speed a lot of the things that we were also taking for granted down here in Africa. E-commerce, digital advertising, digital marketing, some of the things that obviously we and many companies, many entrepreneurs, many businesses were not really. But I think with the COVID-19, and the shutdowns and so forth, and remotely working, people working from home, no travels and so forth, do everything online. There was a quickening. People quickly went into an overdrive. All of a sudden, you have to have a website. You have to have an e-commerce platform. If you don't have a website, you're gonna have to sell your stuff on Instagram. You're gonna have to sell your stuff on Facebook and all the digital platforms, and the digital, channels that you have to fintech, digital marketing, and yeah, that's where we are now.
And I'm very interested that you talked about the African market. I mean, there's some things I've also been watching as well that I have maybe one or two things to say about. Like, I am a big, big, big believer that DSTV should have been Netflix. I think, it's just something that came to the top of my head. If you think about OTT, over the top television, and who had the infrastructure first to build something as big as that, a company like DSTV had the grinds and the foundation for them to be that platform, or one of the biggest right now. And personally, from a consumer standpoint, not even somebody trying to get into business, I would have liked them to see venture out into their own OTT platform, and not piggybacking or something like Showmax, for example. That's just something I'm interested in. Over the next 30 to 40 years, we're going to see a lot of companies who either ignore or disrespect technology coming to a sad demise.
So they are not really far behind, DSTV, or rather multi-choice, because they're also on Showmax.
I mean,
But at
debatable.
the same time, they are obviously in direct competition with guys like Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's the age of competition. It's the age of competition. I mean, really, it's the age of competition. There's many sales providers, and the competition is really cutthroat.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect way to segue into the next question that I had, which is, I know I only had you here for 30 minutes. Thank you for taking that extra 10 minutes with me. I appreciate that. What would you say? What word of advice would you give to anybody of any age wanting to enter the entrepreneurial space or innovate in that? Three things for people who want to get into franchising, and three things for entrepreneurs.
Three things for franchising. Number one, you have to love the brand. I can imagine a situation whereby you get into something that you don't love. Don't love McDonald's as a brand. You can't really just do it for the money. So you have to love the brand, number one. You also have to understand there are ways of doing business. And number three, you also have to do your own research, and see if the figures make sense. Because at the end of the day, everything goes back to the figures. Sometimes the figures you only get to know more about the figures once you're doing your applications and so forth. Because if you're outside, you can never see anything. Research. Number one, love the brand. Number two, research. Number three, know the figures. If the figures are making sense, like the projected figures are making sense, then you go for it. Then in terms of the entrepreneurs, number one, there can never be a right time to start a business, or to start a project, or whatever the case might be. COVID, which has wreaked havoc like globally. And as an entrepreneur, you then cannot sit and say, I'm going to wait until this COVID thing, is
course.
gone for me to start. I mean, if you look at other big companies that started globally, some even the Fortune 500 companies like your General Motors, General Electric, Hewlett Packard, Microsoft. These were companies that were started during depressions in the USA. So they can never be, a perfect time. That's number one. Number two, I cannot emphasize more on research. You have to do your own research on the particular industry that you want to get into. Know what's happening, know the dynamics, know the guys that are leading there, know the laggards, know what makes that industry tick and how you can come in and be different. Then number three, don't give up.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. What comes next for Sydney Mukwacha in your entrepreneurial journey and the future? What is coming up next in your ventures?
Well, it has to be growth. We have to scale in all the businesses or the franchises that I'm involved in. There has to be a scale. Next year, this time, it will be a totally different story.
In terms of?
Well, in terms of businesses, if today, for example, if you're doing X amount of revenues, by next year it has to be double that.
I wish you the best of luck in every single one of your ventures. I will be watching, taking advice, learning, and watching from afar. And I really appreciate you coming on my interview and giving me the time of day. It means a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, we do need the luck. Thank you.
Of course.